the highway exit that doesn't exist. I've driven the same stretch of Highway 12 so many nights I could tell you where the asphalt buckles by listening to my coffee lid. Elk Bend to Granger. 5 hours if you hit the way station at the right time, 6 if you don't. I roll reefers mostly, sometimes dry van, whatever keeps the lights on. There's a part after mile marker 211 where the road gets honest. No towns for 30 miles, no radio stations that don't fade to static, just the dark wheat fields and the white center line, like God drew a chalk mark and dared you to follow. My name's Cal. I don't tell stories. I haul them. Pallets that mean birthdays, barbecues, weekends you'll remember but not for long. You've eaten my miles. You've worn them. You built a whole summer off boxes I dragged from one warehouse to another. This is the story I can't drop anywhere. It doesn't fit a bill of lading. It doesn't sign for delivery. But it happened. And I haven't been able to sleep good since. It was early fall. 2 a.m. The sky had that hard, salt black look, stars bright like someone had polished them. I'd left Elk Bend late because a forklift blew a hose and we sat around joking we'd retire the day that warehouse didn't smell like hot rubber and coffee. By the time I hit the empty flats, the cab was warm, the road was warm, my bones were warm, that dangerous kind of warm where the wheel starts feeling like a pillow. I cracked the window and let in air that smelled like cut alfalfa and cold iron. I told myself I'd stop at Hollis, top off, grab a pie at the diner if the cook was awake. Only thing is, there's no Hollis on Highway 12. There's Hollow Creek. There's Harrison off 90 if you're willing to detour. But Hollis? Not on any map I've ever looked at. Still, the sign was right there. Cling, cling. Reflective letters that bit back my headlights. Exit 23, Hollis. Gas, food, 24 hours. And beneath it, a smaller panel in white letters that made my hands go cold on the wheel. Cal, next right. I know how it sounds. Some prank, right? Some billboard thing where they scan your plates, pull a name, make you feel special enough to spend $30 on beef jerky. But this wasn't a billboard. It was a legit highway sign bolted into a post, dead flies at the corners and everything. The metal looked old. The bolts looked older. And the font? That DOT block type that hasn't changed since my dad taught me to merge. I laughed like a man laughs when he's not sure if he's awake. Cute, I said to the dash. Y'all got jokes. Maybe I should have kept rolling. Every driver knows that tingle in the back of your scalp means don't. Instead, I put on my signal like a citizen and took the ramp. The pavement dipped, then rose. For a second, all I saw was sky and my own dumb grin in the windshield. Then the hood tipped forward and the world below arranged itself into a tidy little town like somebody set it out for company. 3 blocks by 4. Water tower with Hollis painted in peeling white. A diner with a neon eat that flickered between E and at like it couldn't make up its mind. A Sinclair station with the green dinosaur bowing its head like it knew me. The place looked maintained. Not new, not pretty. Just cared for. Porches swept. Lawns shaved to the same exact stubborn length. A flag on Main Street that barely moved though I could feel the wind push against the sides of my trailer. I rolled down slow, 12 downshifts into a life I hadn't planned on. At the station, a kid in coveralls stepped out with the kind of alertness you don't see after midnight. He waved like we'd met. Evening, Cal, he called, and it slid over me like cold water. I eased the rig by the diesel pumps. Evening, I said back because my daddy raised me to be polite even when my heart forgets how to beat. You open? Always. The kid was maybe 20, hair too long for a shop, hands too clean. His name patch said Jack, but it looked like it had been sewn on twice. He tapped the side of pump 2. Need a top off or a rest? Top off, I said. Coffee if there's any. Diner's got pie, he said. June'll cut you a slice like it owes you money. June, huh? I checked my mirrors. Empty street, empty town. What is this place? Hollis, he said like I hadn't read the sign. Been here long as the road. The pump clicked the way pumps click everywhere. a satisfied little metal sigh. I watched numbers spin and waited for my brain to catch up. The kid didn't ask for my card. He didn't check my DOT number. He just stood there, easy as Sunday. "Where you out of?" he asked. "Elk Bend," I said. "Headed to Granger." "You'll get there," he said, like a fortune cookie that also changes tires. "You always do." "Yeah," I said. "You know my route that well?" "Just your stops," he said, and then, like he remembered something, he gave a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. "June's on nights this week. She'll be glad." He handed me a receipt. Paper, the old kind, the gray that takes ink like it was hungry for it. No logo, no pump number, just paid in the time. 2:13 a.m. "Hey," I said, "what's the price per?" But when I looked up, the kid was already walking away, waving over his shoulder like he'd see me tomorrow. I tucked the slip into my shirt pocket. I don't know why that detail matters. It just does. The diner had those big plate glass windows that turn night into a mirror. I saw myself coming before June did, beard too long, cap too low, a driver built into the shape of a seat. The bell over the door gave a talk like a heart that forgot it used to be a bell. June looked up from a crossword. She wore her hair like the women in the Polaroids on every shop wall from the 80s, sprayed into a soft helmet, blonde gone a little copper under the light. Her name tag was a red oval that had been polished so many times it made the J look like a hook. "Well, if it isn't Cal back from the living," she said, and it hit me so clean I forgot to breathe. We had never met. I'm sure of that. Still, my mouth asked, "This seat taken?" like it had asked her 100 times. "Not if you're paying," she said, but she said it with kindness. "Coffee?" "Yes, ma'am." She poured. It smelled like my mother's kitchen at 5 a.m., that particular black drip that's half tar, half prayer. She slid a menu across, though I already knew the answer I was going to give. "Pie?" she prompted. "Yep," I said. "If you've got peach." "You always want peach." She didn't check the case. She just went and cut a slice. When she set it down, it looked exactly right. The sugar on top cracked into little islands, the crust singed just on the edges like a kiss got too long. I ate. I burned my tongue. I didn't care. "You get some rest, Cal," June said when I was done. "Rode squirrely past the reservoir." "Is it?" I said, like that was new information. "Listen, June, how long you worked here?" She thought, but not really, the way people think for show. "As long as I needed to," she said. "You still running nights?" "Mostly." "That's when it finds you," she said, not looking up from refilling my cup. "What does?" She put the pot down. Her hands were steady. When she met my eyes, I felt dizzy, like I'd stood too fast. "Whatever you try not to remember." The bell over the door talked again, and a man in a flannel came in like a wind had pushed him. He nodded at me like friends do when they can't place you. He took the corner booth. June brought him chili and never wrote a thing down. I left cash, too much, because the receipt the kid gave me didn't have totals and I didn't trust my head to do math. When I stood, June put her hand lightly on my wrist. It was cool, dry. I could feel a heartbeat that wasn't mine. "You say hello to Ellie if you see her," she said. Her eyes softened. She almost smiled. "Tell her the sky over Hollis can still turn pink if you catch it before the sun remembers to be mean." I didn't know the name Ellie. I didn't. Not until she said it, and something inside me moved like an animal uncurling after a hard winter. Outside, the green dinosaur bowed again. I climbed into the cab and sat there with the engine off and the windows down, listening to nothing, like it was a song I might learn. The receipt crinkled when I breathed. I took it out and looked again at the time. 2:13 a.m. The numbers glowed faintly, like they'd been pressed while the paper was warm. Back on the ramp, the sign for 12 pointed right. I could have turned left, gone who knows where, but the road I knew tugged like a rope tied to my ribs. I shifted up and let the rig find her hum. 2 miles later, the CB crackled with a voice that sounded like a river over rocks. "Southbound, you got your ears on?" I thumbed the mic. "Go ahead." Watch your right at the mile bridge, the voice said. She's slick where she looks dry. Copy. I waited. You out of Hollis? A pause, a long one. Then, aren't we all one way or another? I drove with my hands tired and my eyes clean. Past the reservoir, some late fog laced over the water like a veil left hanging. The road did get squirrely, just like June said, a shine on the asphalt that wasn't rain, something that made the tires hum different. By the time Sky thought about light, I'd put 70 miles between me and the exit. I pulled into a rest area and slept with my head against the window and dreamed of pink clouds stacked like quilts. Morning is harsh in a truck when you went to bed with ghosts. Everything looks practical again. Birds are birds. Coffee is a mouthwash you swallow. I checked my log, checked my straps, checked the math in my head, then unfolded my atlas out of habit. You can keep all your apps. Nothing steadies a man like paper. I traced Highway 12 with my finger, Elk Bend to Granger. No Hollis. No exit 23. Exit numbers jumped from 22 to 24 like a tooth missing from a smile. I told myself I'd misread it. I told myself Hollow Creek at night might look like anything if the wind is right. I told myself names are just sounds and the brain grabs the ones it wants. The receipt in my pocket didn't care what I told myself. I made the delivery, took a backhaul, slept bad in a chain motel that smelled like old oranges and carpet glue. 2 nights later, I was headed the other way. It was earlier this time, around midnight, and the moon had gone thin. I promised myself I wouldn't look for it. I promised myself I didn't care. At mile 224, the radio cut from some loud song I didn't like to static that pulsed like a heartbeat. Then a voice, a woman's, came clean as church. Cal, it's June. Pie's hot. I almost put the rig in the ditch. Who is this? I said to the dashboard, to my own ridiculous reflection, to the space where a co-driver isn't. No answer. The song came back, loud and useless. I told myself I wasn't going to do it. I did it. The sign showed up like it had been there all day. Exit 23, Hollis. Cal, next right. I took it. I had to. The town lay in its same careful order. The water tower flaked in its same tired way. The station lights were on like somebody loved paying the bill. Only difference, Jack wasn't outside. Pump 2 wore a hand-lettered note in thick marker. Back in 5, honk if you need. I didn't honk. I rolled through to the diner. Bell talked. June looked up with a smile that moved something in my chest that had been nailed down for years. Back so soon, she said. Figured the road would keep you longer. You called me? I said. She tilted her head. We don't have a phone worth answering. The radio then. Truckers and their radios. She waved it away. Pie. Peach, I said, and then, before my mouth could stop me, who's Ellie? June's face did a thing I've only seen a few times, when folks reach for a joke and find a memory instead. You are, she said softly, and my heart fell like a wrench off a ledge. No, ma'am, I said. My name's Cal. She poured coffee. The pot clinked the cup. Then tell me why you look like a man who lost somebody at a gas station and never forgave himself for buying gum. I didn't talk for a minute. I didn't know I was going to talk at all. Then my mouth said, when I was 25, my girlfriend got pregnant. We were idiots. Happy idiots. We thought love could pay for tires. I took a warehouse job and kept running nights. She wanted to name the baby Eleanor. Said it was a name you could grow into. We fought about money, then we didn't. We were good again. She went into labor early. I was on 12 right about here. Stopped for fuel. I told myself I had time for gum. She started bleeding. They lost the baby. We lost us. I told myself I couldn't have made it anyway. I told myself you don't speed when you're hauling 16,000 pounds of someone else's life. June listened like a field listens. No judgment, just wind. I don't tell that part, I said. I tell folks the truck broke. I tell myself the time wouldn't have mattered. I don't say her name out loud. Ever. June nodded. Rode squirrely past the reservoir, she said, as if that explained everything. We all leave someone somewhere. She brought the pie. I ate around the burned parts like I have since I was a kid. Why does your sign call me by name? I finally asked. She shrugged. We put folks' names on things when it's time. Time for what? To stop practicing, she said. To tell the story true. I set my fork down. Does Hollis exist? June looked around like she was making sure the place hadn't moved. We sweep. We paint. We fry eggs and fix flats. What more do you want from existing? Can I bring someone here? I asked. Could I show them? June's eyes went kind. It finds you when you're alone, she said. When you've made a circle so tight you can't tell it from a life. I paid cash again. When I reached for my receipt, June put a second slip on the counter. It was blank except for 3 words in clean blue pen. Tell Ellie hello. I can't, I said. She never made it. June tapped the paper. You tell her anyway. The kid Jack was back at the station when I rolled by. He lifted a hand without looking my way, the way you do when someone's leaving the town they grew up in. Back on the highway, the green sign hid in the mirror's corner until the road bent and took it from me. I drove like a man carries a lamp through a house he used to live in. I didn't hear from Hollis for a while after that. Weeks. Months. Enough miles to make you think you dreamed it. Then last winter, I stopped at a Love's outside Granger. The cashier handed me change and said, You dropped this. It was the receipt from that first night. Gray paper, paid 2:13 a.m. It shouldn't have been in that store. It shouldn't have been anywhere but my pocket or my drawer at home. The cashier smiled like she'd done me a favor finding my lost thing. On the way back, a snow squall swallowed the highway. I crept along behind a plow, 60,000 pounds of careful. When it broke, the sky went pink like a bruise healing. For the first time in years, I said her name out loud in the empty cab. Hello, Ellie, I said. My voice shook. I said it again until it steadied. Hello, Eleanor. Your dad's late. He's sorry. The radio, I swear to you, fizzed once then went clean. A song came on I hadn't heard since high school, some dumb track we used to dance to in a gravel lot. I laughed until I cried. I cried until I laughed. I don't know what Hollis is. Maybe a town somebody forgot to unbuild. Maybe a fold in the map where old stories wait for fuel and pie and a name tag that doesn't lie. I do know this. Exit 23 only shows up when I'm driving alone at night and telling myself the old version, the one where everything I did was the only thing I could have done. The sign calls me like a friend you moved away from. The ramp dips, the world arranges itself, and I drink coffee that tastes like forgiveness brewed strong. Sometimes the kid's there. Sometimes he isn't. June's always working. She never writes the order down. The bell always talks like a heart that's made its peace with being a bell. I asked June once, will I ever stop seeing it? She wiped the counter with a cloth that had been washed 1,000 times. Do you want to? I didn't answer. She didn't make me. Last week I brought a flower, one of those cheap supermarket daisies that live forever in water if you change it. I set it on the counter. June put it in a jelly jar. We didn't say the name. We didn't have to. On the way out, the water tower looked a little whiter in the moon. The dinosaur bowed deeper than usual. The green sign at the top of the ramp had one of those little orange flags like the DOT had been meaning to come fix a screw and forgot. On the smaller panel, under Cal, next right, someone had taped a strip of paper. Ellie, sunrise. I took the highway east. I drove slow. I didn't rush. At the reservoir, the world turned the color June promised. Not pink exactly, but a decision to be kind. I pulled onto the shoulder and rolled down the window and said hello again, and the hello came back to me from the water in a voice that sounded a little like mine and a little like wind. If you're ever out on 12 between Elk Bend and Granger and you're tired and your bones are warm in that way that means you've been keeping a thing too long, watch your right. You might see a green sign where a green sign shouldn't be. You might read your name in highway letters. You might find a town that isn't on your phone but knows how you take your coffee. If you do, tell June I said thank you. Tell Jack to check pump 2, it clicks off early. And if you meet a waitress who asks you to say hello to someone, do it. Don't worry about whether they'll hear. That's not the point. Around Hollis, hello's nowhere to go. I still run nights. I still haul stories for people I'll never meet. Some mornings the sky over 12 turns pink before the sun remembers to be mean. And I think maybe I'll retire when I run out of exits that don't exist. But not yet. The road squirrely past the reservoir. Someone's got to say it out loud.